Hi, it's Joe Morgan with the Tech Leader Spotlight podcast, where we interview tech leaders to learn about their journey and leadership lessons learned along the way. This show is brought to you by the No Regret Money Plan, created for smart tech professionals who know they're doing well, but aren't certain if it's enough. We help you invest cash wisely, make the most of stock awards, minimize your tax bill, and create clarity and confidence so you can spend less time worrying and more time living the life you want. If you'd like more information, look me up on LinkedIn. That's Joe Morgan at Best Financial Life. All right, today on our podcast, we have Harvey Lunsman, who's a principal engineer at Hewlett Packard Enterprises. And he is an experienced leader who specializes in liquid-cooled, high-performance computer systems. Thanks for joining today, Harvey.
Thanks for having me, Joe.
Great. So let's start with liquid-cooled, high-performance computer systems. So what exactly is that? Does that phrase refer to?
So I'll start with what a high-performance computer system is. So a high-performance computer system is different from just a normal computer system, basically in just the scale of the power and the scale of the compute. So what I design is, refrigerator-sized supercomputer racks that are filled with hundreds of CPUs or GPUs, and these racks are more than, 300, 400 kilowatts of power in a single rack. And you just can't air cool that much power. And so we have to bring in liquid cooling just to keep the system from burning up, essentially. So that's what a high performance liquid cooled computer means to me.
Wow. And so are these in farms, or how are these usually situated?
Yeah, so they're in data centers. We've deployed them in modular data centers, which are, basically containers that you can deploy on concrete pads, which makes it easy to scale your data center capacity, your size. So that's one way we deploy these systems. Another way would be in just dedicated brick and mortar, data centers that have liquid cooling capability. Not all data centers have liquid cooling capability, so these systems can't go in every data center around the world. They have to go into specific ones that have high power and liquid cooling enablement.
Ah, I see. And so I would imagine, is this a growing area, or where is this sort of in the
Yeah, this is
cycle?
an exploding area actually in the last few years with the rise of AI, with ChatGPT and the AI factories that are being built. Liquid cooling is exploding. The whole industry is just really exponentially growing. It's been really, really exciting and also very challenging to deal with that growth.
Yeah, I bet. And that brings up a lot of challenges, I imagine, especially working in teams. So let's turn to our typical first question, which is, what does leadership in the tech space mean to you?
That's a really good question. Um, I would put it in a nutshell. I guess leadership in the tech space to me in a nutshell would be the ability to imagine the future, rally people around that vision of the future, and then responsibly build for that future. And so, in order to do that as an effective leader, you have to be able to set direction for the team. You have to be able to create impact, and you have to empower people in an environment that's constantly changing. So the tech industry is challenging because of how quickly it's changing, and it's hard to deal with that as human beings. So, empowering people. You want to make sure your team feels trusted, that they feel heard, that they know that they can speak up and bring issues to attention without reprisal and things like that. So you need to create an environment where people feel trusted, they feel challenged, and they feel supported. You have to make sure they feel supported. You can't just throw them in the deep end and let them drown. You have to let them know that there's someone there to reach down and pick them out of the pool if they're drowning, so they can learn from that experience and not, drown. You have to make sure people are not afraid to experiment and fail, but you don't want to let them fail in such a way that it has such, a really big impact to the design, where you're going to result in really large costs or wasted time and things like that. So as a leader in the tech field, you have to kind of know where those mines are in the design space and kind of guide the team to avoid those big mines. But you have to be willing to let them hit the little mines so they can learn from that experience and kind of grow in their expertise. And so it's important to make sure that they are comfortable and willing to take those risks and fail a little bit so they can learn and grow, improve.
Yeah, great answer. So that's a lot of things. So some of the things I heard were imagine the future, rally the people, and responsibly build for the future. and then direction, impact, and people, and a lot of people, right? Because
All
that's
those,
what we're leading is the people, right? So I'm curious, do you have any like techniques or things that you do in particular to be successful as a leader?
I actually recently went through a leadership development course where we studied the work that Brené Brown has done on
Mm.
the 7 pillars of trust and her work on
Yeah, great stuff.
vulnerability. So I've learned a lot from that. I like her 7 pillars of trust. Setting boundaries, being reliable, being accountable, the confidentiality, integrity, not being judgmental, and being generous. I think that's all super important stuff, and it's hard to actually put into practice. But if it's important to do that because that's how you can really empower the team. I feel like make sure everyone has feels like they're contributing in a meaningful way.
Yeah, it's easy to like sit here and talk about all this stuff, but to um not just to strategize and do the things that bring people into the team, but then to be able to react real time when things are moving quickly. That to me has always been the hardest part of this. What are the challenges, some of the challenges that you come across in this?
Yeah, execution and delivery is always a huge challenge. Turning those ideas into tangible products. um, yeah, I mean, you have to lead through your actions, not just your words. You have to kind of demonstrate the behaviors that you expect your team to have to be successful. So it's really important to kind of be the example for the team. If you're going to be the leader, you have to set a good example. That's just the most basic kind of table stakes of leadership, in my opinion, is being the good example for the team.
Yeah, that's great. There's a lot of challenges today in the job market, in the tech space, and really generally speaking. And so a lot of people are out there having already lost their job, or they're sitting there in their spot at work, maybe not concerned, but in the back of their mind thinking about potential for layoffs because they seem to be happening all the time. What are some of the things that you do or that you've seen other people do that help them protect themselves in case a layoff comes their way? Like while they're working, what are the things that they could do?
Yeah, that's a really good question and a hard one to answer. I mean, yeah, how do you future-proof yourself to avoid layoffs? Right now, I would suggest, become an expert user of AI and really build on your interpersonal skills, your people skills. I think that's going to be more important as AI rises. AI, I think, is not it doesn't have that human touch, right? And so I think that's going to be more important to have that empathy, that human, the ability to connect with people. I think that's going to become more important and more valuable as a skill. I think the raw technical skills, I think, are not going to become as important because everyone's going to be able to have access to an AI that knows all of that information and has
Hmm.
some of those skills. So yeah, I think there's learning how to work with AI and then learning how to work better with people. I think really are the two things that if you can be really good at those two things, it can make you stand out and be less likely you'll get caught in a layoff.
Yeah, that's great. And have you seen like classes or programs or certifications that go along these lines?
Um, Not really. I
Hmm.
personally haven't really seen anything at HPE, at least. Maybe there
Hmm.
could be other companies that are doing things like that. Um, yeah, that's a good question. I don't know of any off the top of my head that I would point to as a good example.
It seems like this is huge. Ever since COVID, when people started working at home, and then now there's back to office and all, but you've got to be able to lead people, under so many different circumstances that it seems like we would be training our people on how to do that. But I agree. I mean, I asked that question because I haven't seen that anywhere. So always curious to see leaders in the space of training leaders. I
Right?
think we need that quite a bit.
Yeah, it might
Um,
be a good business opportunity to develop a tool like that.
could be. Hopefully somebody's out there listening and going to do that. So my next question is about just learning in general and really thinking more recently, let's say the last 5 years. If you could go back 5 years ago and give yourself some advice, what would that be?
Oh man, 5 years ago, I would tell myself to slow down a little bit, kind of enjoy the journey more. We
Hmm.
get so caught up with delivering results and hitting our metrics that we tend to kind of lose the journey in the process. And the journey is really where you learn, where you grow. So I would tell myself just kind of slow down a little bit, don't try to rush so much. And I would want to invest more time in relationships and in the industry, not just within HP, but within HP as well. I've been so focused 5 years ago on just the technical details of stuff. I a little bit neglected the human side of it. Like I said previously with AI and everything, I think that's more and more and more important. And so I would spend more time focusing on that. I think I would tell myself to do that.
Do you think it's easier or more difficult to get those relationships today versus in the past?
It's probably more difficult today. I think I feel like people are more disconnected, more, I don't know, split up into political camps and things like that. It's I think it's becoming more difficult to connect with people.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So that's a tough one. Invest more time in relationships and doing that. I'm gonna put you on the spot here. Any techniques or ways to do that?
Oh, you know, listen more. Yeah, that's been a big thing for me is not talk
Mm,
so much, listen, be willing to listen to alternative viewpoints and actually listen to them and not just disregard them. Yeah, there's no magic solution, right? It's hard work. You just gotta talk to people and you know learn
yeah.
to work and develop that relationship. There's really no shortcuts in my experience to that.
I love that. I think that's a huge takeaway, to listen more. I think we could all do that in every part of our lives these days, especially if you're married. Uh, great. Well, thanks so much, Harvey, for joining us. I appreciate your comments and your viewpoints and the things you've shared. Just as a reminder, this is sponsored by the No Regret Money Plan, where tech leaders gain clarity and control of their finances so they can live out the rest of their life with intention. If you want to know more about us, look me up on LinkedIn, Joe Morgan at Best Financial Life. Thanks, Harvey.
Thanks, Joe.